Hello, how are
Hello.
you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. I'm excited because I just love, everything that you put out there. I love the tips on your Instagram site as well. They're really like consistent and strong applicable tips. So I can't wait to hear what you have for us today. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about what about you and what you offer, and then we'll dive into those tips.
Sure, thank you. So who am I? So I am Geneva Manesma, and I'm a conversion copywriter, but I wasn't always a copywriter. And before I dive in a little deeper, copywriter, if you are unfamiliar with the term, is someone who writes messaging for sales. So I do write things like websites. I also create content for blogs and brochures and bios and all of that. But the big chunk of what I do is help people with their overarching messaging, and oftentimes that's landing on a website. My background, I wasn't always a copywriter. I come from the healthcare world, so speech language pathologist, worked with pediatrics for a very long time, and so that was business one. And so, like you mentioned, I kind of bring that experience of having owned a business prior to this business in, and understanding the needs of service-based businesses, and that's primarily who I write for now.
Great. And we also have a little local connection as well, being not just Floridians, but we both have lived in the North Florida area, which when there's that kind of connection, you meet someone virtually, and then there's some other thing that remains all world.
Absolutely. Yes, not too many people know where Niceville, Florida is, but you did.
Awesome. Well, why don't you start with tip number one that you have for our service-based business owners?
Absolutely. So I wanted to come on and share some actionable tips. I love information for me that's tangible, and I say, okay, that's something I can bite off, chew, and apply. So that's what we're going to do today. So I really love working with brands that are not afraid to get a bit bold, lean into some strategies so that they can create messaging that attaches and is sticky to their ideal client. So let's go there. So the first tip I wanted to share today, Brooke, was to know your UVP. So your UVP is your unique value proposition. That's a mouthful. And so a lot of times when I'm consulting with a company, I ask them this, and it might go along with the other question of what's your brand promise. So all of us do what somebody else does. You know, I'm not the first copywriter, you're not the first coach. And so it's really important when someone lands on your website that the very first thing that they see is your unique value proposition. What do you do? How do you do it? And so why? Because we want to draw in who we're meant for, but just as much as we want to draw in who we're meant for, we also need to be able to kind of, I don't want to say push away, but we also want to be able to let someone know who we're not for. So for myself, for instance, if you go on my website, I would say the best place to put this is in what we call the hero banner. So that very first large graphic area space when you land on a site above the fold, or on, you're on your phone, it's that first message you see should be very bold. So like for myself, it's intelligently designed copy that provokes the mind and moves the heart.
Mhm.
I want someone to know from the minute that they land on that I'm all about writing authentically. I'm all about going a bit deep. I'll be honest, I'm not for the person that wants a very trendy message, very boppy message, something that is like, oh, I just saw this on someone else's site and I want you to write this. Like, I'm all about creating a message that runs deeper, and that's the client I want to draw in. So that's my first tip, is to know that unique value proposition. So if you're a coach, who exactly do you want to serve, and how are you going to serve them? What do you do differently than anybody else in your industry? And I also hope in putting intelligently designed copy that kind of draws someone to want to read my background and understand where I come from and my ties to behavioral health. And so I bring a lot of psychology into what I do. And so that's kind of where my value proposition comes in. So anyone can find this, but think about what really sets you apart.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And I love, just thinking about it in terms of emotion and feeling. And when you put that word heart in there, that really can quickly spur emotion for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much aligned with everything that you present in all of your social channels and everything. I was noticing you also have heart and heels, which is maybe another topic we could discuss for another day. But you know, you really promote that heart-centered type of business approach and that deeper approach. So clearly, putting that value proposition up front is telling people how you're different right away. Awesome. So how
yeah.
do?
So number 2. All right, number 2 kind of goes along with number 1, but it is to know who your client avatar is. And so I've been to many workshops or sat in many networking meetings where we talk about this of who is your ICA, your ideal client avatar. So we've got UVPs and ICAs. So your ideal client avatar, this can get muddy for people because people start thinking very much about demographic, right? Like this person must be in their 40s and they are a mom and all these things. And I think that for many of us, I know that if I narrow mine down to a demographic, I generally work with service-based brands, and I generally work with women-owned brands, that and corporations. Those are kind of my 2 demographics. But going deeper, let's talk about the psychographic of that client avatar. So how do they think? How do they feel? What do they care about in life? You know, what are their values? And what I have often found is that when we know our own core values, we generally are seeking somebody much like ourselves. Like the people that we love working with the most are those who align with us. So if one of your core values is purpose or vision or curiosity, open-mindedness, you're going to enjoy clients likely that mirror those core values. You're probably going to be great at working with those people versus somebody that has a very opposite core value to you. So when you think about your client avatar, I've always thought often we are it. Like if you think about who you are, your story, you probably came from something to end up where you are, and you are often your client avatar. But I really encourage people in service-based industries to again go deep and think about what core values resonate with them. What do they want to emanate from their brand? And so who is the person that's drawn to that? Who is the person that's okay with that? You know, for myself, I need a client. I'm a visionary, and I want somebody that can trust me with vision. So I need somebody to kind of align and match with that. If I have someone come on that wants to micromanage the whole copywriting process, they're not trusting my vision. And so we have then an opposite core value. So I think when we know our core values, as well as we know that unique value proposition, it does help us communicate a much more streamlined message that is going to hit deep at one group of people, although not always a demographic, but definitely a group that thinks similarly.
Yeah, I love that psychographic. You know, it instantly reminds you that you're not just dealing with a number, you're dealing with human beings out there. And you need to,
people.
Yeah, you want to communicate in their language. And then also that keyword of value, right? What value do you deliver? What values do you live by? And what values do your clients live by? And how can you create some crossover for that?
Absolutely.
Great stuff. So we've got a third one.
Yes. And I did want to say on core values, this is one that when I write for companies, if I have to write someone's website, we spend a lot of time on this. And I will say that's probably one of the hardest things that people seem to, it's one of the hardest questions I ask that people struggle to answer. And they know themselves, they know who they like to serve, they know what they're about, but putting it into words. So I would encourage anyone listening that if you can't rattle off kind of your 4 or 5 core values, like quick, is there are plenty of websites. You can just Google core values, business core values, and there's many websites that have PDFs and exercises. I have one. Anyone's welcome to email me and I'll send it over to them, where it basically starts with 100 core values, and there's no right or wrong. This is all individual to the business. You circle 20, then you eliminate to 10, then you go to 5, and really get clear on what 5 core values matter the most to you. So I'm happy to provide that. So 3.
Yeah. I will pause you there because I want to do that, and I'm sure a lot of people would love that exercise. So definitely reach out to Geneva about that. But that's also what I do with my clients. The first phase of our program is clarifying their vision and values. So if you haven't spent time on your values, block out some time on your calendar. It's way worth it. So
Yeah. And it's for business, I think we tend to want to jump into all the very tangible elements of our business, you know, our website, our logo, our brand colors, all these things. But honestly, all of that should radiate from core values. So it's like, you know, a lot of times we start with wanting to make the packaging of our businesses look pretty so it attracts people, but what exactly are they attracted to? It's not the wrapper, it's going to be what's on the inside. And so I think if people take the time to kind of do that deep dive with themselves, you'll arrive at a brand, be it your logo aspect, your colors, the mood of your brand is going to feel much more aligned to who you are and who you serve.
mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So three. Three is to be sure that you have clear calls to action. So anything that you put out in your messaging, whether it's a post on Instagram, Facebook post, or it's on your website, is to make sure that you know exactly what call to action you're driving people to. And that call to action doesn't always have to be a sales call to action. We're just sometimes trying to think of how do you move a prospective client, or maybe it's a current client, further down the journey with you. So often people start at just an awareness level, right? Like it might be, I know I'm struggling with something. I need someone to coach me through this. Like they just have this very basic awareness. Then they start researching. Then they hit a decision. Okay, I need to choose between A, B, or C coach. So that's where that value proposition is super important, because that might tip somebody in your favor or in somebody else's favor. From decision, they finally are working with you, and then you might have another offer at some point. You want that repeat customer, or you want the referral. So when you're thinking about your messaging and your calls to action, certainly on your website, more times than not, that's the person that's in that awareness to decision phase that's visiting your site, and they're looking for what next. So often when I see sites that I end up going back and rewriting, they may have a call to action at the very top of the page in the menu that might say like book a call, or you know, their consultation call. I'm out of words today. But you scroll down the page and I don't see any more call to action buttons. So the danger of that is somebody clicks off because they read, and they just don't see that very accessible to them. So if it's book a call, or if it's learn more, my services, is making sure that across your website pages that you have ample call to actions, and so you keep people on your site and you keep people engaged with you, but also you make the journey very easy for them so they know exactly where to go, and they're not lost at any stage or apt to click off.
Yeah, that is super important. I know I've heard it called like the caveman brain, about how simple we have to make things, especially digital, because everyone's, you know, bombarded with information. And what a great tip. I think I'm probably guilty of that as well. I'm going to go back and check my website, because I think I've got the book a call at the top and maybe join the newsletter at the bottom. But that, you know, that consistency throughout is so important.
Yes, and so sometimes it's really a matter of someone has some great content, and it can just be a matter of breaking it up, chunking it out a little bit more, and there might be a very natural place to insert that button that doesn't look out of place on the page, or it's just creating another box section or something to that nature. On the call to action line is on your homepage also, is making sure that, you know, look at a homepage is like, if somebody went no further than the homepage, you want them to have all the information basically on some kind of surface level that they need. So they should know your value proposition, who you serve, what you do, a little about section, and there should be buttons to all the other pages of your site. I think of the homepage as kind of like my living room. From my living room, I can see all the other hallways of my house. I see the route to the kitchen, the route to my master bedroom, the route to the hallway. And so your homepage is that. A section that I always encourage people to create on their homepage is just 3 simple steps to what's next with you. So whether it's just, and you can use icons, and this can be very small, but it might just be, you know, click to schedule a consultation call. we will get on a 15-minute call and we'll discuss A, B, and C. And, you know, the third step might be whatever the brand promises, like you're on your way to a better life, or you're on your way to more sales, or whatever that is. And then below that, having the schedule now or the book now button so that they clearly know what the steps are, and when they book that call with you, what's coming next. There's no surprises.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I can see that working with you, your clients would have those next steps as well, because you've been so thorough and methodical with this. So I'm super glad we've recorded it, because I think people can go back and double check those blind spots on their website, and then get in touch with you to really synthesize it and make it more powerful and precise. So how?
Absolutely. Can you repeat that, Brooke? It blanked out for just a second.
Should people get in touch with you if they're interested?
Sure. So if you're here on Instagram, feel free to go to my Instagram page. My profile is Geneva_Manesma, and you're welcome to send me a direct message there. But probably the easiest way is to shoot me an email. It is hello@Geneva Manesma. I know my last name's kind of funky, but it's Maresma, hello@GenevaManesma.com, or go onto my website, which is www.genevamanesma.com. And you can go through the website contact there. So if you want to just get a little help and consultation on your site, I offer that, all the way to full site writing, and even pair up with a couple designers. So if someone's like, you know, I need a full overhaul, then I have some very trusted resources for that as well.
That's great. Sounds like a one-stop shop.
Try to be.
Well, this has been pleasure to have you on. You've been a wonderful guest, and I think you provided some really powerful tips and insights for people today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.